have you ever worked really hard to set the perfect goals, maybe your New Year's goals in January, only to never look at them again? Or perhaps you've worked on a ton of goals at the same time. You've set ambitious goals for work and health and your kids and your own personal growth. And then you ended up feeling really scattered and overwhelmed instead of actually making real progress on any one of those. Well, if you're nodding your head right now, then you've come to the right place. Hello to all of you wonderful moms out there. This is episode 83 of Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life. I'm your host, Anoki Kapasi, and I'm here to help moms like you envision, plan, and take action on your big ideas so you can create impact at home and at work. I know what it's like to feel overwhelmed, where you're struggling to find balance. You're trying to reclaim time for your goals in the midst of managing all of these moving parts for your work and for your family life. You've heard me talk about how life planning is my go-to method for customizing your life to fit your goals. It's a holistic and full-scale planning approach that puts you back in control of how you spend your time, who you're going to spend it with, and what you get to say yes and no to. Life planning is what I teach all my clients who want to create big impact in their lives. So if life planning is your clear roadmap to achieving your ambitious life, then what happens when you hit some roadblocks? Life planning is a broad personal endeavor, but it's easy to slip into habits or assumptions that end up steering us off course. So today, I'm sharing the 10 most common life planning mistakes that trip up even the most ambitious and organized moms. And more importantly, I'm going to teach you how to avoid these missteps. I'm going to talk about why treating your plan like a rigid script will backfire, how to stop overloading yourself with too many goals, and the one framework that turns these vague dreams and wishes that you have into actual progress. By the end of this episode, you're going to know exactly how to create a life plan that's going to be flexible and grounded and truly work for your real mom life, not some imaginary perfect version of it. So today is the day where you can overcome those obstacles to building a life plan, a plan that actually helps you achieve that sense of balance, reclaim time for personal growth, and stop letting your good intentions get lost in the daily chaos of your life. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's talk about how to build a life plan that actually sticks. Are you looking for a way to blend success and motherhood without losing sight of who you are? I get it. I've been there too. Hi, I'm Anoki, a PhD researcher, business owner, and homeschooling mom of 2 boys. As your life coach, I help moms like you create a life you love at home and at work. If you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed, overscheduled, and overlooked, and want a clear roadmap to a balanced life, a meaningful career, and finally feeling like yourself again while being the awesome mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this journey to create the life you truly desire, it's time to rediscover your dreams and achieve your ambitious mom life. If you enjoy the Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life podcast, please take a moment to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps more ambitious moms decide whether this is the show for them. Your feedback not only improves the show, but also builds our supportive community of purpose-driven mamas. One listener shared, I like that this is applicable to my life when I was working part-time and now I'm self-employed. It's relieving and refreshing to listen to this podcast. Wow, congrats on your big shift and for finding clarity and calm into your decision. So ladies, reviews like yours help me tailor content to better serve your needs. Would you mind sharing what you think by leaving a quick review today? It takes just a minute of your day, but it makes a lasting impact on my growing podcast. Thanks, and I can't wait to read what you have to say. When I first became a mom a few years ago, I didn't realize that I was also taking on many new roles. I know you guys can relate. While I felt like I was developing my skills as a scientist, I also wanted to be a present mom, a supportive wife, a generous community member, a strong leader, wise teacher, organized homemaker. You get the idea. And I just didn't want to be good at everything. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to feel successful and be accomplished in a way that leaves a lasting impact way after I'm gone. I wanted to create something new and big and helpful in a really wide-reaching way. I found that I was really put together when it came to my work as a scientific consultant. I was able to put out high-quality work, show up and meet my deadlines, and make critical contributions to projects. In all other domains of my life, though, I felt really unbalanced, disoriented, and like I was drowning in my day-to-day, and I was unable to get ahead and do really important stuff. So I knew that I had to do something about it. And that's when I took my first serious stab at life planning. Well, I didn't really know what it was when I was doing it back then. I just felt so ready to make a change. Yet, it took me almost 2 years to really put my life plan together, with understanding my values and vision all the way down to my daily routines and systems. The problem was that I didn't really know how to plan my ideal life. I was doing everything by trial and error. And so once I figured out what was working and didn't work, I was able to systemize my process into what I now call life planning. That moment basically taught me something crucial. It taught me that the how of life planning matters just as much as the what. And today, I want to share the 10 most common mistakes I see ambitious moms make when they're trying to design their dream lives. Because once you know what to watch out for, your plan becomes a tool that's going to work with you, not against you. So you might not be using my method for life planning, but you might be setting up your ideal life through other means, maybe vision casting and vision boarding or journaling or doing SMART goals or whatever your system is. These 10 mistakes apply to any form of life planning that ambitious moms are using. And so for the purposes of today's episode, I'm going to clump all of those methods of planning your life under the term life planning. So the first big mistake is when you take your goals, your vision board, your life plan, and you treat it like a rigid roadmap. That's where you treat your life plan like it's a one and done plan and you've mapped everything out. Every turn, every milestone is dated. You might be so specific and say something like launch a side business by March or have a second baby by age 34, as if life is going to cooperate on the schedule that we set. But we all know that life doesn't cooperate that way. A career opportunity might land in your lap 6 months early, or a health issue requires you to slow down, or there might be a family crisis that pulls you in a new direction. Now, I hope that none of the bad things here that I listed are actually going to happen to you. But the point is that when your plan is rigid, then your thinking becomes rigid too. And so then when there are curveballs, if something happens that's not part of your plan, you start to feel like a failure instead every time you need to pivot. And then the stress of being, quote unquote, off track is going to be more damaging to you than not having a plan at all. The point of our life plan is so that we can make consistent progress towards a life that we feel really aligned with, that we start bringing in things that we want and that are important to us, and we start filtering out the things that are out of alignment with who we are. And so that is why the solution is to view your life plan as a framework, not a script. So I actually like to often refer to our life plans as a GPS navigation system. This is where it's going to offer you a suggested route. And if we, for example, decide to take a different turn when we are in our cars, then it just recalculates. It recalibrates and tells us how to get back on course. And so that is exactly how a life plan works. We shouldn't treat it like a schedule or a project timeline that has to be done a certain way, where all the tasks and due dates are laid out and there is no budge or wiggle room. The reason that my methodology focuses on maximizing you, your values, your purpose, your strengths and preferences, etc., is because it's about a plan to becoming more aligned and balanced version of who you are. And so there isn't just one way to be that, to be you. So I like to build in quarterly check-ins where you get to ask yourself, is this still the right direction? You might have chosen to take a different path, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, but by having quarterly check-ins, you can recalibrate just like a GPS navigation system would. You can allow yourself to adjust timelines and even your goals. Yes, your goals may change. Just because you have them down in a life plan doesn't mean that those are going to be the only goals you're ever going to have. So another way to think of it is like renovating a house. You have a vision, but you can adapt when you discover that the coding regulations require you to change the plumbing plans, or when you discover a new interior design element that you'd like to build into the architecture of your house. So your life plan should also breathe with you. So the next time you set New Year's goals, for example, and you tell yourself it has to be this way or nothing at all, it's no wonder that you might ditch your goals once things don't really go according to plan. But if you set goals that work within my methodology of life planning, then it's very easy to mold your goals and adapt and customize them based off of your lived experience and your preferences and the direction you hope to go in. The second mistake is failing to define success clearly. We say things like, I want to be healthier, or I want to save more money, or I want better work-life balance. Well, these sound like goals, but they're really just wishes in the sky. Vague goals are impossible to measure, so you'll never know if you're actually winning. You can't celebrate progress because you don't know what progress looks like in those kinds of situations. And the ambiguity is going to create a bit of decision fatigue, to be honest, because every day you're going to be redeciding, hey, is this what healthier means? You're going to have to come up with a new definition of healthy every day based off of what actions you feel like taking that day. That is in contrast to having a really clear plan that you can follow. So the way to sidestep this mistake is to get as specific as you can about what success is for you. That's why when you build a life plan with me, we take enough time to articulate exactly what you're working towards. We start with templates and prompts to build out value statements, vision statements, mission statements, and things like that. Each statement is going to include concrete examples of living true to that statement. So the clearer that you are, the kinder you are being to yourself. Now, mistake number 3 is a really big one. It's where we assume that one size fits all. The same advice is not going to work for everyone. That's why I talk about customized life plans. So, for example, you might read a productivity book that swears that all successful people wake up at 5 a.m. Or your friend has a meal prep system that she absolutely loves and you think you must do that as well. Or you follow a budgeting method that some influencer is raving about, but when you try those things, nothing quite fits your specific life. The problem is that when you do that, you're basically forcing other people's strategies to work for you, but they don't align with your values or maybe your current season of life or what your family's needs are. Maybe you're a bit of a night owl like I am, and so being told to become a morning person is not really an easy thing to do or even the right thing to do for you. That is not really in alignment with what makes you feel normal. Maybe you homeschool and can't batch cook on Sundays like all of these other Instagram moms seem to be doing. So that mismatch is going to create friction, and you're going to start thinking that you're the problem when really it's just the wrong approach for you. Now, getting inspiration and learning about strategies that work for other people is never a bad thing. But what you want to do is treat that external advice as data points, not as commandments or rule books that you have to follow. When you hear a strategy, you might just want to ask yourself, well, does this align with my values? Does it fit with my current constraints? You want to filter everything through who you are, your personal lens. And eventually, you will have a full-fledged life plan, and any new goals that you develop can then be filtered through your life plan. But while you're in the building phase of your life plan, you can still do this sort of internal check. So if the 5 a.m. club doesn't really work for you, maybe your power hour is actually at 9 p.m., like it is for me, after the kids are in bed. Your plan should really be custom tailored and not an off-the-rack plan. Honestly, this is one of the first things we fix when you work with me, because too many people have come to me with very honorable goals, really, but what we find is that those are not quite the right goals for them. That is not successful for them. That's just something that they end up choosing based on society's definition of success. The fourth problem is when you ignore health and well-being and you treat them as things that you only address when you have time. Those are often the first things that we end up dropping when our schedules get tight, or we do things like sacrifice our sleep for the sake of productivity. We think of self-care as a luxury. That's really just something that you do if you're at the spa, not something that you do on a daily basis to take care of yourself. And we all know that you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think you definitely can't execute an ambitious life plan when you're just running on fumes, because that's going to lead to burnout, chronic stress, and illness, and that's actually going to slow you down and honestly even derail everything. So The area of health and well-being is actually really, really important. And the thing about your life plan is that it should be broad. It should be all-encompassing. It should entail a holistic view of your life, an important component of which is your health and well-being. So your life plan needs to include those. And then mistake number 5 is actually really similar to the last one. It's a domain of our life that we tend to overlook, and that is our relationships. Many people don't set goals and incorporate relationships into their long-term vision. Now, one of my really important relationships that I want to have that's very much built into my long-term vision is the kind of person I want to be in the life I want to have when I am a grandmother. Almost every decision I make right now is so that I can be the kind of grandmother I want to be down the road. But this mistake is not just about future relationships. It's also about the relationships that you have now and deciding which ones to deepen and how to grow them. And so our life plans are going to help us align our time, our resources, energy, finances, and relationships with what matters most to us. And so we want to treat our relationships as strategic investments. Just the way that we want to be strategic with our time, we will do the same thing with our relationships. In many cases, our relationships are our main system of support. Mistake number 6 is something that many of you might have already experienced, which is when you are emphasizing your short-term goals, but you don't know how they're going to lead into your long-term goals. We often fill our planners with this week's to-dos and maybe even some of our quarterly projects. So we spend a lot of time to optimize for the now, maybe the next promotion, your current fitness challenge, or even the next set of meals that you have to prepare. But we often forget a very critical step, which is to anchor all of those efforts into our long-term vision. Because even when you're crushing your short-term goals, you might still fall into the situation where you wake up in a couple years from now and realize that you actually haven't worked towards a long-term vision. Sometimes it's really luring to just focus on that short-term goal, which feels like an easy win sometimes. And you, little by little, don't realize you're getting off track, especially if you haven't taken the time to define what that track is. So my life planning method involves taking your long-term vision and then breaking it down into long-term and short-term goals. In that way, your life vision is basically baked into your short-term goals. Mistake 7 is also something many of us are guilty of, which is overloading on too many goals. We're high achievers. Of course, we are going to dream big, and there are so many things we're trying to get done. I totally get it. You want to launch a business and write a book or get certified and renovate your home, improve your marriage, maybe lose some of those extra pounds, and also volunteer and be that good community member. And these are all things that we can achieve. We just have to be strategic about it because they can't all happen all at once. When you choose to overhaul your life on all of your goals at once, that's more like a manifesto and not really a life plan. What's going to happen is that you're going to spread yourself too thin, which means that every goal is just going to get a fraction of your energy, and you're not really going to make a lot of progress or even have any breakthroughs maybe on any one goal. I like to call this goal overload because I see it quite a bit, and so it's a really quick way to experiencing burnout. So I would highly recommend that you continue to be ambitious and think about all the goals that you want to pursue, but then be really strategic about when and how you attack each goal. I would say that you want to limit yourself to 2 to 3 high-impact goals per planning cycle, whatever that is for you. For me, I like to work on really big goals quarterly. So I usually have 2 big goals quarterly, but throughout the year, I have about 8 domains of my life that I address. Now, this is all part of my strategic planning system, which allows you to make progress on all of your goals in sort of a rotational fashion. So it's consistent. You'll still consistently make progress, but you're not doing everything all at once. So just to be clear, I'm not saying in any way whatsoever that you should lower your ambitions or expectations. I'm actually saying that you can do it all, but the more you want to do, the smarter your plan is going to have to be. And so you're going to want to be more intentional with which goals you work on and when. So I recommend that you focus really deeply on only a couple, 1 to 3 goals at a time. And then once those are well underway or they're almost complete, then you rotate into new ones. And just come up with a good cycle. Quarterly or every half year is a really good way to think about it. And so remember, you're building a life. You're not running a sprint, okay? This is your life vision. It's a long-term plan. So I would say that when it comes to life planning, I would say you definitely want to go deeper rather than going wider. Now, the eighth mistake is actually the third step that I often help people with. After all of the envisioning and after all of the planning, the really important part is to take action. If we delay our decisions and we tell ourselves that we need more information or more time or more certainty before we take action, then it basically creates a ripple effect. When we wait for that perfect moment, we're going to miss deadlines, or we're going to end up waiting another year, or we hesitate and then lose our window of opportunity. So there is a cumulative cost to staying stuck. And so that's why it's no surprise that after we build out your life plan, many of my clients choose to stay on to get additional support for implementing their life plan. They want accountability to ensure that they're actually going to take action. The plan isn't useful if you never take action on it. And because we're high achievers, we often end up being perfectionists as well. But that's why you want to adopt a good enough decision mindset. And that's where you basically force yourself to take action, even when you know that you haven't figured out all of the details yet. So I actually teach you how to time block your life planning elements and then how to set deadlines. Just remember that most decisions are reversible or adjustable. So even if you don't have all the information, if you have key information, then just act on it. Make that call, learn from whatever the outcome is, and then course correct if you need to. Mistake number 9 is neglecting to build in financial or scheduling buffers. We're often guilty of stuffing our calendars to the brim, or we budget down to the last dollar. But then the moment something unexpected happens, like a car repair cost, or medical expenses, or a last-minute work request, really our whole scheduling and budgeting system just collapses. And you end up blowing your budget, or you miss whatever appointment you need to make. And then it just brings on a whole lot of stress, and it makes it hard for you to be present for your family. And you might be at risk for your entire life plan tumbling. It's no secret that as moms, we're constantly facing shifting priorities and interruptions. And that is why we have to build buffers into both our time and our money plans. When it comes to scheduling, I've talked about this before. I like to build in 15-minute gaps between meetings, or I like to pad all my time blocks with an extra 15 minutes before and after. It's basically like white space where nothing specific has to get done, but if I am off track in any way, I have that leeway to shift things around a bit, and that it doesn't cause my entire schedule to shift accordingly. You can do the same thing with your budget. You can have an emergency fund that can cover 3 to 6 months of your expenses, let's say. Set it aside. Pretend you don't even have that money. Because if there is a change in your financial circumstances, you're going to be so glad that you have that emergency fund. Having these buffers, whether it's financial or time, isn't a waste. You're not wasting that money by not using it. It serves a purpose. And same with the white space on your calendar. When things really start piling up, they're going to serve as shock absorbers. If you're constantly dealing with shifting priorities and have to reschedule because something took longer than expected, you're not actually being present with the things you have to do, because you're constantly calculating how are you going to adjust your schedule, or how are you going to find the money to make up for an unexpected expense. And so this is how you're going to spend less time managing your life and more time living it. You're going to have more control in your life by having these buffers in place. And the last mistake I'm going to talk about today is not revisiting or updating your life plan regularly. Since your life is going to evolve, your priorities are going to shift, there will be new opportunities. But if your plan stays frozen in time, then you're not going to be able to accommodate all those changes. A stale life plan is going to become irrelevant. It's going to be worthless to you. You don't want to keep working towards goals that no longer serve you, and you don't want to miss any chance to capitalize on new possibilities. Think about a map that was printed 5 years ago. If you're using something that might be outdated, you might think you're getting yourself to your destination, but you're probably not going to get to the right spot if the roads have changed during that period of time. So what you want to do is to schedule regular reviews. Now, this is the solution to avoiding several of the other mistakes that I've listed today. But again, by having a quarterly or semi-annual or an annual review and then asking yourself, what's changed? What's working? What needs to be adjusted? You get to reassess your priorities and update your goals accordingly. Another really cool thing that happens when you review regularly, you can also celebrate your wins. That's really important to make your plan sustainable, to be able to check in and say, hey, I am making progress, and to enjoy that realization. So your life plan is a living document, so you want to start treating it like one. This is how you can get big results even though you're a busy mom. You need to start using your life plan in a really effective way to avoid these mistakes. And your life plan can only be effective if you're actually using the right life plan. Now, what I do is that every month I review my short-term goals and I pick which ones I want to focus on for the coming next couple months. Every quarter, I remind myself what my long-term vision, values, and mission is, and I also make sure that my short-term goals are still in alignment with my long-term goals. Then annually, I revise my life plan if I need to. If my life has changed enough, I've had some major transition that affects the overall setup of my life plan. And so there you have it, 10 common mistakes that trip up even the most ambitious organized moms. Those are treating your life goals like it's a rigid plan. 2, failing to define success clearly. 3, applying one-size-fits-all advice. 4, ignoring health and wellness into your life plan. 5, overlooking your relationships as part of your life plan. 6, overemphasizing short-term goals. 7, overloading on too many goals at once. 8, procrastinating on taking action. 9, neglecting financial and time buffers. And 10, not updating your plan regularly. The good news is that now that you know what to watch out for, you can build a life plan that's flexible, grounded, and really yours, personalized to what you want. And if you're ready to go deeper, head over to solveformom.com/quiz to take my free life planning quiz. It'll help you to figure out exactly where you are in planning out your ideal life and what would be the best next steps for you to move forward. So, thanks for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next episode, and until then, keep on planning that ambitious mom life. I hope today's episode will help you create time and freedom to pursue something you love to do. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and tell other purpose-driven mamas about it. Who knows? You might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review on Apple Podcasts. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. I'll see you next week for another episode of Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life with Anoki Kapasi.